Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the FTX Crypto Cup being held in Miami, where 8 of the best chess grandmasters in the world are all in one venue, but instead of playing on physical chessboards, are playing on electronic ones and sitting there with 2 computers blocking their view of one another. Welcome to chess as an esport, baby. Well, after the first 3 rounds, Magnus Carlsen is in first place with a perfect score, which, to the surprise of absolutely no one, is occurring. But Praggnanandhaa Rameshbabu from India, the other teenager superstar, is tied with him. On the other side of things, we have Anish Giri with 1 point out of 9. We have Hans Niemann, who has yet to get on the board, despite winning a game in every match that he's played in. So it's tense, it's exciting, and we still have a few more days to go. A lot of prize money up for grabs. And today we have an interesting storyline, and that's what we're going to start off today's recap with how a top GM can lose in 10 moves. 10 moves, yes. That's like double the amount of moves you might have lasted in this game, right? So Pragg is playing Levon, right? And this is game number 3. So they've drawn 2 games. This is their 3rd rapid game. Best of 4 in rapid, right? Knight f3, bishop g7, and we have a main line. I mean, this is one of the mainest of the main lines of the Grunfeld. Here, Pragg plays my line, h3, and by my line, I mean I played this line before. The idea of this move is to prevent bishop to g4. That's it. That's the whole idea, and, you know, you wait to see what black is going to do. So Levon castles, we have bishop e3, and now queen a5. And here, the best move is bishop to d2, because you want to meet cd4 with cd4, counterattacking this. And then I've had people put the queen on a3 against me. In this position, I play the move rook to c1, so that this rook laser beams the bishop. It's a very complicated position. But Levon plays the move b6, which is like already a losing move, and it's going to get extremely bad extremely quickly. Pragg doesn't punish it in the best way according to Stockfish. Here, he plays the 2nd best move. But the point is that black's queen is stuck. There is now a way you can mummify this queen with a4, bishop b5, and c4. If you get those 3 moves, the queen is trapped. It's completely nuts that Levon played this. It's just insane. And the whole reason you have to play a4 is that so the queen can't go to a3. I just showed you a line where the queen safely stands on a3. But Levon tries to deviate from theory. Well, I don't know if he tries to deviate from theory, but all of a sudden, the queen is just, there's nothing the queen could do. White is just going to play bishop b5 and c4. Stockfish shows some weird, obscure ways that black could, like, not lose immediately, but that just doesn't happen. Bishop b5 on the board, suddenly Levon's trying to break out, but the queen is just completely trapped. It just goes to a5 and dies there. It's unbelievable. I mean, the power of my Grunfeld line, huh? h3, look at that. I won a nice classical game with it against Robert Perez, if you remember my GM recaps, my GM round robin recaps. Yeah, I mean, just a4, rook a2, bishop b5, and Levon sacrifices a pawn, but it's to no avail. And when the dust settles, one guy is just straight up a queen. One guy has a queen, other guy doesn't. Now, it's only +3 because Levon has 2 bishops for it, but it is a queen and a pawn for 2 bishops. So white has a 4-point material advantage. And the way he converts this, which is very easy, brings the queen to safety, moves his pieces to safety, and now he starts trading. All right? Black trades and wins a pawn, but one guy has a queen, dude. Like, what are we, right? There's nothing you can do. If black tries to play a4, there's queen b4. Queen's just too powerful. And the queen is more powerful the more help the queen has. All right? Think a superstar player on a team surrounded by more superstar players, right? Well, actually, not really, because then you have PSG, and we all know how much of a problem their team is, right? I don't know much about football, but I hear that having that many superstars on a team can't be healthy. It's like a superstar with excellent role players, all right? And yeah, I mean, white just wins. Queen versus 2 bishops. This is how our recap is starting. Just a 3-minute recap of a game where Pragg just wins a queen. Now, was it over? Oh, it was anything but over. Pragg was up 2-1. This was the 4th rapid game, and Levon had the white pieces, and Pragg played a very interesting opening. He played this move, e4. And then he played c6 with the idea of playing d5. This is a gambit. This is a very interesting gambit. It doesn't have a name. I don't think it has a name. White just wins a pawn, but black plays d5 and kicks this knight back and then plays h5. It's a super interesting line. We're about to get a lot of analysis on this because it was played by the Beast, Ariban Baskaran, against the Uzbekistan team, I believe it was in the Olympiad. And now it's being played here, so yeah, we're definitely going to get some analysis on it. Look at Prag's pieces from the opening. I mean, Prag is so active here for just one pawn. And actually, Prag sacrifices a second pawn and just castles. Down 2 pawns. But all his pieces are active. Levon plays well. I mean, he's trying to consolidate, right? He's trying to, he's trying to consolidate and castle, but oh, goodness me. Prag starts throwing haymakers. Knight takes d4. Sacks a knight. Sacks a rook. Oh my gosh, look at this. If white castles, he gets mated. Good game. So how do you defend yourself? Rook is hanging. This is under attack. Black is going to play a6, right? Kick the queen away from the defense. If queen c4, then b5. What do you do? How do you prevent all this? So Levon attacks the rook because if this, he just goes king d2, he's actually not that bad. Rook e8. Now he blocks. Apparently in this position, Prag had to play queen f3. Queen f3 here is lights out because you threaten mate. If the knight moves, then you sack and you win in this position by taking both rooks. I think that's how you win. I mean, you don't even have to take both rooks. You might just be able to checkmate the king. It's mate in 9. If after queen f3, white plays queen takes b5, which is a very natural move, you still sacrifice. And then after f takes e3, you win with this, this, and this. That was Prag's prep. I mean, I don't know if it was his prep. Maybe he didn't remember his prep, but that would have been the icing on the cake of the preparation. But instead of that, Prag did what any human would do. He took a rook with check. Like, who wouldn't play that move, right? The problem with the way he did this is that now Levon consolidates, tries to trade some pieces. Levon's up 3 pawns. Let's not forget, like, he was given a lot of presents by Pragnananda, right? And I mean, he's just up 3 pawns. The problem is that the position is so difficult to handle with white that even though it's +4, try to play this with like no time on the clock, right? You don't know it's +4. And Prag plays bishop b7, Levon plays d5, which was the beginning of his problems. He should have played rook a7, I guess. But he plays d5. Rook a7 again, but he played too passively. He had to go rook a7. That was the way forward. By playing this, he suddenly allows Prag to get back into the game. Look at this. Squares near the king are weak. Queen f2 is on the way. And unable to deal with this, suddenly he begins losing pawns. And Prag takes over the game again and just wins. This game is over. bc3, there's queen d5, and you're going to take the rook. It's insane. Prag wins. Prag is perfect. 12 out of 12. He's beaten everybody in rapid. Prag has won $30,000 in 4 days. It's not bad. He's won 30 grand in, like, I don't know, 12 hours of work, 15 hours of work. That's not too shabby, yeah? $2,000 an hour or whatever it is. Obviously, many hours go into preparation and so on. I'm joking. But if you win the match in the rapid, yeah, you get a lot of good cash. I mean, it's crazy. Prag just showing good resilience, fighting back. Prag keeps saying he's lucky. He keeps saying he gets lucky games. I want the kind of luck that Prag has, okay? Yeah, just amazing. I mean, for a brief moment, there was a scare. It wasn't as clean as we like, but what are you going to do? Now, the next matchup that I have for you, this is the final rapid game between Hans Niemann and Anish Giri. So, Giri won the first rapid game, and then Hans struck back a couple of games later in a game that probably he shouldn't have won. Anish kind of let it slip, but it was a very nice comeback. So, Hans has won a rapid game in every match that he's played, but he has yet to get on the board against anybody, right? Always comes down to, like, the last game. They did against Prag, and in this game, Hans begins with a bishop b5 check Sicilian, and then he brings the bishop back. This is a line, I know it looks a little silly, like why would white play bishop b5, bishop d3, bishop f1? If you do it, you're dumb. If they do it, oh, well, they're just rerouting their bishop for the later stage of the game. You wouldn't understand, right? It's just one of these things. If you play like this, I would fire you as my student. I don't even know how that's possible because you would be paying me, but, you know, we'll figure that out. So Hans gets this setup, plays d4, and creates this imbalance, right? Plays f4, very aggressive in the opening. Anish here plays in a way that's very interesting. He brings the queen out, and then he plays g5. He sacrifices a pawn and sacrifices another pawn to try to open up the position. Then he's going to try to get the knight over to these two squares. And Anish gets a very nice position here from the opening. Knight a4, we have a queen trade, and Anish is just bulldozing, right? King f1, b5, Anish fighting on all sides of the board. I always say this, if you control the battle on one side of the board, that's great. But if you manage to control it on the king side, queen side, and the center, that's it. There's no other sides of the board left. Anish is just completely winning. I mean, this endgame is just, it's like a -2 endgame. Anish is pawn up, dominant control of the position, but Hans never gives up, all right? And Anish lets Hans get this exchange down position. Like rook and bishop versus two rooks. Rook and bishop can hold two rooks, as long as you don't allow the rooks into the position, and as long as you continue to create threats. And for a while, that is exactly what Hans was doing. Hans won the h4 pawn. Hans equalized. It was bishop and pawn for a rook. Stockfish actually thought that the position was equal. And here there was cd5, king d5, and rook b4. And now it's two pawns. This is actually just straight up equal. It's crazy. But it's low time, and people are going to make mistakes. And Anish continues to pose problems, and finally gets in. And like I said, you have to not allow the rooks into the position. If rooks get into the position, it's bad news. And it gets a little bit dicey here with the c-pawn, but just in time with rook c1, and Anish cleans up. Anish was so unhappy about this game. After he won the match, he sat there staring at his computer, shaking his head. It looked like he had lost. So poor guy, you know, must have been, I don't know. Like, I've never seen that kind of emotion actually out of Anish, to be totally honest with you. Because Anish, when he wins, he's like chill. When he loses, he's also chill. He's somehow very zen. He was like pretty pissed off with the way he had handled the position. Hans, on the other hand, look, Hans has probably had a soundbite almost every single day of this event, from tweets to clips, and he gave an interview after like one of the first rapid games here. And he was saying something like, yeah, you know, I'm playing really fast in my games because I want to lose as fast as possible, and then I just want to go to my hotel room because I've sort of like given up on the tournament. I just want to order like Uber Eats delivery. And then he was saying that he wanted to go into the ocean and, you know, never return. And so now this has caused like an entire separate debate on social media between, is Hans just being edgy, or is he like actually, is his mental health actually suffering? I mean, speaking from experience, your mental health definitely suffers, all right? And Hans seems like a pretty intense guy. I would not chalk this up to, oh, you know, he's just being edgy. Like, that just seems kind of like discounting the emotions. Is he being a little bit exaggerated? Sure, perhaps, but no, having a disastrous result in chess and really, really, really plummeting on your expectations can ruin your day. Folks, I have played 3-minute games on the toilet that I lost that ruined my day. Ruined it. I only felt better by the evening. I can't imagine what it feels like, right? So hopefully, just like you all tell me, you know, Hans has a good, some sort of stabilizer, because he seems like an extremely hardworking guy. Obviously sets really high expectations of himself. Yeah, you can argue that, you know, whatever, he hasn't earned the right to trash talk to the microphone as much. Who cares? What does that even mean? What? Like, let him do what he's got to do, because if he was winning, nobody would be talking, right? So give him another shot in the future. He's gonna win some games, and the trash talk will be definitely backed up. I'm willing to see what happens with Hans. Up to this point, he has called his shots like Babe Ruth. He has said, I'm going to win this tournament, and he does. I'm going to get this GM norm, and he does. So, you know, it's just one of these things. But yeah, I mean, like, he seems like a very hardworking guy, and it would be good if he had probably just some stabilizer, like some trainer, sports psychologist who's just like, yo, man, chill. Although it's not that simple, right? People with anxiety are always like, oh, thanks. Just chill. Thanks. Oh, why didn't I think of that, right? So anyway, that's a little about Hans. He's got a lot of sound bites going throughout the event. I'm still cheering for him to get on the board. This matchup between Firouzja and Duda was crazy. It began with an anti-Berlin candidate style bishop c6. This line with developing the knight, and throughout the opening, it was Ali Reza just pushing the pace in the center of the board. He got a nice position. He got knight versus bishop. Excuse me. Normally, knight versus bishop is nothing special, but you're going to be able to advance here with your center pawns. And watch what Firouzja does. He centralizes, takes a big center, and deals with Duda's counterplay in a very nice way. Just has a target, right? It's kind of an end game, mid to end game here with queen, rook, and bishop. Queen c5. It's a long game. Actually, their first two games combined for 150 moves. Now you have a weak king. So the way Duda did this is I guess he was just like, I'm going to move my king to c7. And the second that he did that, Firouzja was like, where are you going? Where are you going? I'm going to sack this pawn. I'm going to get this pawn back. And now your king is weak. So utilizing your weak king, I'm going to get into your position. By giving a few checks, I've now won a pawn. My king is actually more safe than yours. And I'm going to win this endgame. We have a queen and rook endgame. But it took a long time. And it was equal for a while. It was a rook endgame that featured a 3-on-1 queenside majority and a 2-on-1 kingside majority. Stockfish might be able to hold this with black, but it's very difficult for a human because it's just too many passed pawns, right? So Firouzja, being, you know, the guy who he is, he just starts pushing and give it a few moves, and white is just completely winning here. There's no way to defend the position because rook a5 cuts off the rook from hitting the pawn, and that's it. I mean, the king can try to go stop it, but this is just game over. By the time the king gets over there, white runs in. That's it. You take on a5, you take on c6. It's just a winning king and pawn endgame because king is behind the pawn, basically, right? You're going to play c5, move the king, and promote. It takes 60 moves, but Firouzja gets the job done, all right? Now, Duda in the next game started out with d4, and we had this semi-Tarrasch variation. cd5, cd4, but instead of queen d4, we had queen a4 check. All right? Queen d4. This is a line, all right? And now e3, bringing the queen back, and white is going to play against the isolated black pawn. White's going to play b3, trade bishop b2, and try to just control that square. That's where the isolated pawn stands, so we want to just try to control that square. Right? Black just has this pawn. Rook d1, bishop f3. So another endgame of queen, rook, and piece. These guys just love these endgames. All right, well, let's see what they can come up with. All right, we have rook c3. Good coordination here by white. Position is about balanced. He trades the... All right, now bishop f3. So Alireza is doing the right thing. Alireza has an isolated pawn. He manages to push it forward, and he's going to trade it off. Now it's just equal. Whoa. That breaks a lot of endgame principles. Duda did not want to allow this, but he damages his pawn structure. Okay. Rook and 5 versus rook and 5. Levy, why'd you show this game? It's obviously going to be a draw. Rook d7. Okay, no draw. Rook d7. f5. All right, what's Alireza doing here? Just shuffling back and forth. Duda asking a few questions of the position. All right, nothing's going on. Nothing's going on. Shuffling. But now Alireza plays b5. What was wrong with shuffling? Or going rook e3. Like rook c7 check, you can just go back to e7. Instead of that, he plays b5, and now Duda's like, all right, dope, now I have a target. Then Alireza still tries to create counterplay. It's probably still maybe holdable, but now white is just a pawn up. He's got a pawn going. Check here in king g6. Oh my goodness. From the depths of an absolute draw emerges Duda, who captures all of Alireza's remaining pawns. And it's just 2 pawns up in this endgame. This endgame is actually still holdable sometimes because it's f and h. The f and h endgame is holdable at times, but you need to have the exact right coordination because if white pushes one of the pawns forward, you need to be able to give back checks. And this is not it. This is not the right coordination because white can hide and white is too close already. So king f6, there's rook b7, rook g7, rook g5, and you just harass the king, you give up the pawn, and you promote your f-pawn. And it takes 88 moves. But these gentlemen are showing their endgame prowess, and it's now 1-1. So it all comes down to their final rapid game. We have d4. Alireza's like, I could do it with both first pawn moves as well. Nimso? Will Alireza play the bishop d2 line? No. It's a mainline Nimso. It's going to be another isolated pawn position. 3 isolated pawn positions. All right, castles. h3, bishop d3. Nice. Controlling the square in front of the isolated pawn. These dudes love these isolated pawn positions. Okay? Bishop back to e1. All right? Trying to apply as much pressure here as possible. Let's kick the knight out of the middle. Let's trade. All right, now you don't have this isolated pawn anymore, but I've got the knight coming to c6. So I'm going to use my piece activity to bother your pieces, right? Rook d6, nice move. Pick up a pawn. All right, pawn never hurt nobody. Let's bring the rook back. Stop a pawn. Now look at this counterplay. If you take the knight, right? Black plays here, knight f4. Maybe there's some attacking chances, some checkmates in the future. I don't know. White is winning, but Alireza's like, I'm not even going to take. Bozo, L plus ratio, you fell off, make better content. Like, I'm just not taking the knight. Dude, I'm not taking the knight. Dude is like, all right, well, if you don't take the knight, I don't know what I'm doing with my position there. Rook a2. White's just still a pawn up. Again, queens, rooks, minor piece. These dudes love these endgames. And it's up to Alireza to consolidate. And, well, he wins the second pawn. He deals with Duda's aggressions. And he's up 3 pawns now. And trust me, that is more than enough material at this level to win. And Alireza making it look easy in this game. Very nice win by him. He beats Duda. Duda now falls a little bit more on the rankings. Very nice win from Alireza. Picks up $7,500 and picks up 3 games in one Gotham recap video. That is an asset that might even be worth more than picking up $7,500. That's cap. Everybody likes $7,500. Now, final game of the day. All right. As always, I have put a timestamp to Magnus Carlsen, but he is not in the title. He is not in the thumbnail. You know, for all the feedback, folks, that you and we go back and forth, right? You're like, oh, Magnus is in the thumbnails. When I don't put Magnus's name in videos, you guys aren't interested. That's a you problem. That's just, right? Like, this was an interesting recap. But if I had named it like, you know, Magnus picks up the monitor and throws it at his opponent, well, that didn't happen, so that would be kind of ridiculous. The truth is, as much as you criticize Magnus being in titles, we are fascinated by Magnus Carlsen. Fascinated. Like a zoo exhibit. You're like, oh my God. Like an animal sanctuary. Oh my gosh, look at that majestic sea beast. Land beast. Something about Magnus. We all love him. Does he love all of us? Oh God, I don't know. But he's playing Liquang Liam in this round. I'm sorry, my nose has been extremely itchy today. Maybe something's blooming outside. I don't know. Ready from Magnus in their third rapid game. H3. And here's something funny happens. So Peter Lecco was really mad at Liam here. The best move here by black is to play CD5 and keep the structure symmetrical. Magnus took with the c-pawn in the center, so black should also take with the c-pawn in the center, because then he would be able to put his knight on c6. Also, he would control the f5 square from white's advancements, which look very natural because the bishop is going to be trapped. And then, after de5, Liam played ed5. And Peter Lecco was yelling here about the fact that if Liquang Liam had been playing any other human on planet Earth, or sea beast, he would have played the move c takes d5. Like, if I was playing Liam here, Liam would play c takes d5. It's something about playing Magnus that makes you act up. Maybe he's super handsome, maybe he wears a very powerful cologne. I don't know. But something about playing Magnus makes you want to be like, oh, I'm going to be cool and play an imbalanced position. Magnus is like, okay, well, what are you going to do about my pawns? F5? All right, I mean, cool. Now your bishop is not playing. And if you play, for example, this, how are you going to deal with all this, right? You're losing. So king h8. And now Magnus sacrifices the knight. He's been sacrificing a lot of material in this event, offers a queen trade, and is just looking to bulldoze Liam on these diagonals. You might as well. All these pieces are stuck, right? Drunk in their bunkers, fell asleep before the battle started, and just rook d1. The light squared bishop for black just isn't participating. Just not participating. Rook c3, nice move. Rook d5. Now black is still balanced, sure, but now this move. You take this, I got this coming, right? You take this, Rook d6, defending myself. And yes, Liam can defend this position for as long as possible, but at the end of the day, there's just a piece that isn't moving. And finally it moves, but by then the pawn majority is marching forward. It's still equal here. It's holdable for black, but it's extremely unpleasant. And that is why Liam loses immediately. Now, granted, even here it was equal. He could have played knight c6 and f6. But again, it's something that Magnus does to people. 0, 0, 0, 0.2 to mate in 4. Just blundering back rank. You take the bishop, I take you here. You can't play king f8. Magnus wins. Something about playing Magnus just makes you completely lose. It's just, I don't know. But we have one more rapid game, right? So let's see how Liam is going to bounce back. Liam plays a queen c2 triangle, right? Magnus playing the triangle setup. Now we have a semi-Slav, dc, b5, hitting the queen. Normal stuff. Black is going to look for c5. There it is. And if black can have it his way, he's going to push these pawns forward. So after this move, there's this, and now the queen side blows up. We have a trade, castles, and the position's balanced. Pawn structure's the same, E, F, G, H, and B. Minor pieces on the board. We have a trade of bishops. Knight goes to b5, and rook goes to c1. Good control of the queen side, for sure, by Liam. But what are you going to do next? Look at that, knight a7, looking to get to the c6 square. Maybe queen c6 and then queen trade. So we have knight c6. e5, Magnus begins fighting back, and here the engine wants you to replace the knight with the bishop, which just looks so stupid. I mean, what even is that? But you want to go queen c4, try to apply a little bit more pressure here, bring the bishop back at some point. I don't know. I mean, I would never play bishop a7, so naturally he does this, and then goes that way. And he does have a very nice position here. In fact, Liam grabs a pawn. Liam's pawn up. But Liam misses this move. Knight e7. Backwards knight jump, the queen is stuck defending the knight, and after queen to f4, which is the only move, knight g6, and you are simply walking directly into the line of attack, because you are pinned. Knight back to e7, backwards knight moves are the trickiest. Liam sacrifices a queen for 2 pieces, but as we saw earlier in today's recap, a queen is a queen, alright? And Magnus sacrifices the rook, comes forward with all the pieces, and you are just not going to beat a queen. It's just too powerful. And Magnus wins again. And your standings after 4 days in the FTX Crypto Cup, Magnus Carlsen 12 out of 12. Because you get 3 points for winning in the Rapids, so he is 12 out of 12. Prague 12 out of 12. Firouzja 8 out of 12. Levon 5. 4 for Duda and Giri. Liam with 3. Hans with 0. I hope Hans gets on the board today or in the remaining 3 rounds. The final round matchup in round 7 is Prague versus Magnus. That's going to be sick. And may you all have a great rest of your Friday and weekend. I will catch you for more recaps. Don't lose your queen in 10 moves. Get out of here.